Fair is foul.
And foul is fair.
Hover through the fog and filthy air.
Fair is foul.
And foul is fair.
Hover through the fog and filthy air.
Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Hover through the fog and filthy air.
I got to meet people like Sammy Davis and that kind of shit. Sammy told me he worshipped the devil. Sammy was like, you know, Satan is as powerful as God. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? He says, why do you think there's so much anger in the world and killing and murder? And, you know, Satan is as powerful as God.
Sammy? You're right. See ya.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic.
La libertad sexual es algo muy importante para nosotros. Es un requisito necesario para la Iglesia satánica. No es el más importante, pero sí es del todo vital. Creemos que todos deberíamos tener la libertad para recrearnos en toda clase de fetichismos o de las así llamadas aberraciones que queramos.
And it was kind of fun in a necrophile sort of way.
For centuries they have met to read from this book and worship the Prince of Darkness. Today they've degenerated into a social club for bored millionaires and celebrities who use its meetings as an excuse to indulge their jaded sexual appetites. I myself belonged to the order years ago, but time is too precious at my age. Besides, my orgy days are over. I told them to go to the devil.
I've been a magician since I was 16. My grandmother died in April, and in January she gave me my second degree, which involved the sacred rite of sex. And she took me through that, and a few months later she was dead.
Al fin y al cabo, lo más importante es aceptar nuestra sexualidad, y eso significa tolerar cualquier orientación sexual y actividad.
Yo no hablaría de tolerancia, no tenemos que tolerar a nadie. Aceptamos a todo el mundo tal y como nos aceptamos a nosotros o a nuestro vecino, pues en este aspecto la moral está de sobra.
I was about to make a series of photographs of young girls of that age for a French magazine called Vogue Homme. And I found it quite an interesting enterprise because I like the girls of this age and because the girls of that age for some reason like me. And just it went a little bit too far.
Creo que deberíamos mencionar que no solo toleramos las desviaciones sexuales, sino que además las apoyamos porque dentro de algunos años se demostrará que todo el mundo está sexualmente desviado, ya sea un pervertido, un fetichista o algo parecido, y que aquel que no lo sea es la excepción en lugar de ser la regla. Y pensamos que
Nosotros somos normales.
Nosotros somos normales.
Rosemary's Baby is remembered as one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and for good reason too. The utmost importance to Rosemary's Baby is its time and location. It was released in June of 1968, was based off of Ira Levin's novel released in 1967, takes place in 1965 through mid-1966. This movie is very much a byproduct of its era, and a big emphasis of the film is the decline in morals that accompanied the 1960s. During this time, there is a major cultural shift. One of the biggest changes came from the decline in conventional religions and the rise of Satanism in pop culture.
Podemos decirlo de esta manera. Una vez la gente se convierte en satanista, hay muy pocos que se resistan a ello.
Sí, se sienten más liberados al aceptar sus desviaciones sexuales.
Exacto.
Es como si les hubiesen dado un cheque en blanco.
But this movie's critiques extend further than the rise of satanic worship, and focuses on the decline of morality that accompanied this rise in alternative practices. Guy is willing to sell the well-being of his wife and her firstborn in order to have a successful career. This can easily be extended to be a critique on show business. Guy is possessed by the need to get ahead and sells everything that means anything to him to the Castovets just to break into show business.
I was desiring it when I was young, you know, when I was in a film school and later. I mean, it was appealing to me. I wanted
celebrity
it.
Part of it?
Yeah, I wanted it. I wanted it very much. It was part of this history of cinema, which I learned, you know, part of Hollywood. It was different. Hey, can I take this off, or would it be bad taste?
Certainly. No.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski.
This was at the home of movie director Roman Polanski, and it was his wife, Sharon Tate, who was one of the victims.
It was an horrific loss for the Polish-French director who just 12 months before had been applauded for his film Rosemary's Baby.
This is no dream, this is really happening!
Roman Polanski, himself a newcomer to Hollywood, had already experienced fame's triumphs and tragedies.
He's Polish-born director Roman Polanski. She's American actress Sharon Tate.
In 1969, his pregnant wife Sharon Tate was brutally murdered by members of the cult the Manson family, led by...
I was in London and my agent called me. He called me around 8 o'clock London time and told me that something happened in the house. I didn't know at first what house he was talking about. He said, it's your house. And then he told me that they were all dead.
50 years ago tonight, the Manson family spread terror across Southern California. It started with the murders of actress Sharon Tate and her house guests in Benedict's Canyon.
Sharon and 4 others were stabbed to death a total of 102 times. In 1971, a jury sentenced Manson and the Tate LaBianca killers to death. But the following year, the California Supreme Court abolished the death penalty, giving them life with the possibility of parole.
Do you think that a new generation of Manson followers are spawning?
You do,
no,
I know it. Deborah says a decade ago, she was warned by the Corcoran State Prison, where Manson was incarcerated, that followers called Mansonites were spreading nationwide.
My children are coming. I told you 20 years ago.
Well, I'm very much into philosophy. A lot of different philosophers that I've read over the years, like Nietzsche, Darwin, Freud, Aleister Crowley, and finally Anton LaVey. And fortunately, he's, still alive, so I got to meet with him and talk about his ideas and things like that.
We feel as Nietzsche, when he obviously wrote Also sprach Zarathustra.
Hail Satan lives! The year is one! Hail! The year is one! God is God!
According to Manson's autobiography, on one stop in San Francisco, he was invited to the home of Anton LaVey, the world-famous Satanist, for a private meeting. Anton LaVey was so impressed with Manson that he officially certified him as a minister in the Church of Satan.
We're all stars now. In the dope show. We're all stars now.
Years earlier, LaVey had served as technical advisor on Roman Polanski's satanic epic Rosemary's Baby, in which LaVey appeared in a cameo role as the devil himself.
In 1966, Anton LaVey founded the Church of Satan, an event which is marked in the movie by the birth of Rosemary's Baby. Meanwhile, some of the biggest musicians of the day included satanic lyrics or images like Donovan's Season of the Witch,
Must be the season of the witch.
the Rolling Stones album Their Satanic Majesty's Request, and the Beatles included Aleister Crowley, a well-known devil worshipper, on the cover of Sgt. Pepper.
Of the Westerfield house, a house where Anton LaVey, the founder of the Church of Satan, came and did his ceremonies a year after he created the Church of Satan with his friend Kenneth Anger, an underground occultist filmmaker. Anger's experimental film, Invocation of My Demon Brother, included graphic depictions of satanic rituals performed in the house. This gives you a visual of rituals he was doing inside this house. And you can tell by the world that he surrounded himself in. This isn't just a movie he shot. This has reflected his activities and who he was. Manson family member Bobby Beausoleil is said to have brought Charles Manson himself to this house. Bobby Beausoleil also participated in these rituals with them, and
yes.
He lived in the house.
Yes, the room right behind you was his bedroom. Bobby had been a very well-respected musician and an early pioneer in the Haight-Ashbury community. He left the house after a large fight with Kenneth Anger. And he met up with the Manson family and became the first Manson family member arrested for the murder of Gary Heinemann.
One of the things we always do, you know, just as part of that bond is whenever you get tattoos like that, it's something that both of you carry with you through the rest of your life, and it's really meaningful.
Look at how cute he is. They're matching tattoos. You know, this right here. You know why? No fucking reason.
Carolyn has told us himself. He said, Johnny Depp is like a brother to me. We have matching tattoos on our backs.
Would you kill for me? I love you enough to ask you again. Would you kill for me?
Well, I'm very much into philosophy. A lot of different philosophers that I've read over the years. Aleister Crowley.
Wait. Who?
Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. The great beast died in 1947. And for a decade, it seemed all his ideas had died with him. But then his do what thou wilt philosophy found a new home with a generation that was experimenting with free love, drugs, and alternative beliefs.
La
doing your own thing, not doing exactly what everybody else is doing, but doing what suits you.
Put it low.
You will kindly remove your mask.
Hi, my name is Jay Sebring, and I'm 35 years old.
Jay was one of the first hairdressers to achieve celebrity status in Hollywood. The lead character in the 1975 film Shampoo would be based in part on Jay Sebring and would be portrayed by former client Warren Beatty.
Jay Sebring was the stylist to the stars, and he was responsible for George Peppard, Steve McQueen, Frank Sinatra, and Jim Morrison's famous trademark flowing locks look.
On Thanksgiving of 1964, Sharon met celebrity hairstylist Jay Sebring at a party at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
You're mad. Quite mad.
Sharon and Jay began a serious relationship. She spent most of her time at his house at 9860 Easton Drive, the former home of actress Jean Harlow, where Harlow's husband, Paul Byrne, had committed suicide.
And she just loved all of the intrigue about that house. And my mother said, my gosh, she said, that was so interesting. And she went through every room, and this is where this happened, and this is, yeah, I mean, well, she had my mother frightened. I mean, she just had this great, that's another thing, great imagination. And I mean, she swore she could hear the ghosts, and she saw ghosts, and okay, fine, whatever.
One night, while waiting for Jay Sebring, she saw an apparition. She couldn't believe her eyes. She thought it was Paul Byrne. She'd heard about him. She knew about him. She'd seen pictures of him. In her nervous state, she went to fix herself a drink, and there she saw something that made her blood turn cold.
The vision was of Jay Sebring tied to a wooden post, his throat slashed from ear to ear. She was terrified.
Sharon Tate recounted her strange story to writer Dick Kleiner, who was intrigued by the ghostly tale and wrote about it in his nationally syndicated column.
It was all very strange. She was literally terrified. It was one of the strangest stories I'd ever heard.
She supposedly saw the ghost of Paul Byrne scuttling around the bedroom. She went downstairs, down the staircase, and at the bottom of the stairs was an apparition of a woman with her throat cut, tied to the banister. Some people think that may have been a premonition of her own demise, which is quite just as dramatic, probably, just a few years later.
Only a few short years later, both Sharon Tate and Jay Sebring were victims in the infamous Manson family murder.
We have a weird homicide.
In a scene described by one investigator as reminiscent of a weird religious rite, 5 persons, including actress Sharon Tate, were found dead.
It's been 50 years this August. It's something I'll never forget. The Sharon Tate murder with 5 dead bodies was one of the most horrific things I've ever seen in the whole time I was a policeman. Lives were ended young. They were young. All of them were young.
La la
Sharon Tate was a beautiful lady. She was gorgeous. When I looked at her when I bent down to check her out to see if she was still alive, I thought, this is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen in my life.
Sharon and Roman's new relationship seemed to help her feel more comfortable in front of the camera. So comfortable, he convinced her to let him take nude photos of her on the set for Playboy.
Did they tell you about all the film that they got with the dogs and the chauffeurs that came out of the black and white when Hugh Brenner and Peter Sellers paid $30,000 to get the videotapes back that they had done with the pornography where they was gobbling on each other's knobs in the closet with Sharon, for Sharon, beautiful Sharon?
The only wound I could see on Sharon Tate was right in her pregnant belly, and it was a big gash with an avulsion cut. It was like they were almost going to cut the baby out of her. That's what it looked like.
Miss Tate, who starred in Valley of the Dolls, was 8 months pregnant and was found in a bikini-type nightgown with a rope around her neck attached to the body of a man.
Filmway sent Sharon Tate to England to meet up-and-coming Polish director Roman Polanski to see if he would cast her in his new film, The Fearless Vampire Killers. A series of dinner meetings were arranged. When her boyfriend, Jay Sebring, heard about the affair, he flew to London to find out if it was serious. Jay remained a part of the new couple's circle of close friends. He would wear Sharon's college ring around his neck for the rest of his life.
It was brutally done. It wasn't like they were just shot and executed one at a time. It looked like there was, the way it was staged, with the ropes around Sharon Tate's neck and the other one around Jay Sebring's neck. It baffles me. It really does. I can't understand why any person would do anything, would kill for another person for no reason. To me, it doesn't make sense.
Very good answer when people said, how on earth could you do a bloody drama like Macbeth after what you went through? But you put
to me, that it doesn't make sense. I mean, you got to be hypnotized or something by this person.
What do you want to call me a murderer for? I've never killed anyone. I don't need to kill anyone. I think it. I have it here.
And maybe Manson had that power because it was sex and drugs. That's what the whole thing was about.
I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome a friend of many, many years, a brother, and all of his pageantry, him, Marilyn Manson.
personal savior, personal guitar hero, Jonathan Depp.
Nature. I mean, I was accused of being one of the accomplices, you know.
Dr. Hill, there's a plot. I know that sounds crazy. You're probably thinking, my God, this poor girl is really flipped.
If you say anything more about witches or witchcraft, we'll be forced to take you to a mental hospital.
Make sure that you got the room that was on his desk.
Read what they do, God. They use blood in their rituals. Monsters.
It would be very helpful, ma'am, if you could tell me what you know about this book.
There were two more murders 15 miles away in the Silver Lake section of Los Angeles. Market owner Leo LaBianca and his wife Rosemary were found by their children stabbed and mutilated. The word war was carved into LaBianca's chest.
Many practicing Satanists believe that wearing the sigil of Saturn utilizes and attracts Saturn's planetary vibrations to the wearer.
We're going to have to leave here soon, Andrew, but you mustn't tell them that. They mustn't ever know that I do any of these things.
But I started to also use talisman, sigil. You can use a talisman or a sigil to take a concept and break it down into a symbolic form that will bypass the conscious mind and can be fired directly into the subconscious. But bypasses all of the thought processes, goes deep into your unconscious psyche, and can then work in whatever way it works down there.
You mark the moment, you celebrate the moment, you know. That means quite a lot to me.
Is it like a tribal thing, or?
Sorta. It's probably yeah. You know.
Yeah, you could say that.
You're a religious man, Mr. Corso. I mean, do you believe in the supernatural?
I believe in my percentage.
Do you have faith? Faith in terms of religion? I don't. Religion is not my specialty.
You're lying! You're lying! You're lying!
Sic luciat lux. Thus let the light shine. It's impressive.
Andrew used to spend many hours in here. Too many.
Did he ever try it out?
I don't understand.
The book. Did he ever use it to perform some kind of ritual intended to produce a supernatural effect?
Are you serious?
Yes, absolutely.
Andrew was a trifle eccentric, Mr. Corso, but he wasn't insane.
You can't believe that anybody's going to take that kind of stuff seriously when you're going through it, but evidently they did. What shaped me as an individual? What made me the person that I am now? By far the biggest thing, even back then in prison, was the practice of magic.
A long time ago, being crazy meant something. Nowadays, everybody's crazy.
Will they say to me, are you a witch? And I say yes. And that kills the mystery for them. Then when I start talking to them, because I know they want to know more, they begin to treat me with the utmost respect because they realize I'm not quite like other men.
Did you start focusing in another particular religion?
Wicca.
Wicca, all right. Could you explain to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what some principles about the Wicca religion?
It acknowledges a goddess in a higher regard as a god. It's basically like a close involvement with nature.
Is there a difference between the Wicca religion and witchcraft?
Wicca is also called witchcraft. The word Wicca was bastardized. It originally meant wise one.
I can heal deliberately. I can see into the future. I can destroy life if necessary by a touch. In fact, I can do quite a number of things. Within the magic circle, I can materialize spirits.
If you're practicing magic, one, you're attracting demons to you. So, and none of these things that you think you're doing, like you've learned ancient spells in some book that you had to blow dust off to open, you don't know anything. You're not doing anything. There's nothing in magic that you truly do. You don't have the power to do anything. You're calling upon a demon who's more than happy sometimes to help you because they're just grabbing your hand and skipping with you straight into hell.
Now he's become like a brother to me. And
whatever he was up to, I certainly can't see him chanting mumbo jumbo or trying to raise the dead.
The devil, Mrs. Telfer. This book is designed to raise the devil.
The thing that I've always loved, what my will was to do ceremonial magic, to do these practices. There were times. And for me, that has been my life's work. And in magic, that's what we call it. We call it the great work. We say that we are working to accomplish, we are striving to accomplish the great work.
When I was a child, I loved magic. And I would say to myself, I'm going to be the greatest magician there's ever been. And I had no idea that that meant I would have 20 years to sit alone in a prison cell and practice and study.
The mind is endless. You put me in a dark, solitary cell. And to you, that's the end. To me, it's the beginning. It's the universe in there.
That I actually wouldn't even focus on the fact that I was in prison for weeks at a time. It reminded me of a story that I read about Timothy Leary one time when he was in prison. And Ram Dass went to visit him and said, we've got a plan to break you out of here. And Timothy Leary says, no, you can't do that. I've got too much work to do. And the great work is when you no longer ever experience reality as an individual illusionary self, but instead you experience it as the source of consciousness, which is looking out through the eyes of every man, woman, and child.
It's everything that human beings don't understand. It's all their fears. It's what they're not sure of. You dig what I'm saying? Satan to me would be God. You would be God to me. You dig? I can worship anything as God. Everything is God. The sun is God. The moon is God. Everything is God. Except them stupid fucking people who got that shit stuck up in their fucking heads and they won't get rid of it.
When I heard Timothy Leary say, tune in and drop out, I knew where they were dropping out to because I had been under that, on the under road, on the back side of what's happening, you know. In other words, in the darkness.
I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started.
When you take acid, your mind expands beyond these moral characteristics and your concepts of right and wrong. So you step out beyond those bounds, and when you step out beyond those bounds, the imagination begins to take over. And the imagination can be a very deceitful thing.
What magic does is allows us to see the ultimate truth of reality, to finally pierce through this illusion that is so convincingly real.
At the time, I thought a man did all this killing when I was walking through the crime scene. I would have never suspected a woman killing people like the way they was butchered, basically, and they were butchered.
The dark allure of Satanism and the mystique of the vampire link Sharon Tate and Susan Atkins in a web of mystery.
Sharon had her first co-starring role in England, playing the part of a witch in a macabre thriller.
Tell me, do you believe in magic? Do you, Jacques? Do you? In magic?
Earlier in her career, Sharon Tate had played a witch in the British film The Eye of the Devil, or 13. During this film, Tate began a brief period of dabbling with white witchcraft. She was initiated into the coven of Alex Sanders, self-proclaimed king of the witches.
Sanders' reputation spread rapidly to America. He's important enough to have had an entire tradition named after him, Alexandrian witchcraft.
Sharon Tate LaBianca's murder, was a witch's hitting. Sharon Tate wanted out. But what do you mean she wanted out? She was a witch? Yes, she was tired of it. She wanted to get out, but what happened was... Sharon Tate was a practicing witch? Yes. Okay.
In 1967, Susan Atkins was an aspiring actress, making her living as a stripper in San Francisco's North Beach. She was hired by Anton Szandor LaVey, the high priest of the Church of Satan, to play the part of a vampire in a topless witches revue held at a San Francisco nightclub.
Gee, honey, I'm sorry. That old witch ought to be boiled in oil.
I was the perfect sexy vampire, ready for my casket lying at the center of the stage. I knew I'd never be able to get into that casket for real without getting stoned. I popped the acid tab into my mouth. I had shaken several people when I had risen from the casket and pointed a long, blood-red fingernail at the audience and marked them as my next victims.
Fullness in my heart, I told you then that with Lucifer's aid we might look forward to a more succulent
Kate's character is referred to as a sacrifice to Lucifer.
This isn't all. This isn't all.
It is alleged that Susan Atkins licked the blood of Sharon Tate off her fingers that night before leaving something witchy on the wall, reenacting their previous roles as vampire and vampire's victim.
What do you see when you look inside yourself?
Inside myself, I see everything. I see all.
How much evil is there?
As much as you see.
What do you see?
All of it.